Hey, Dad! We've got a package here! They're asking for your signature! As a delivery worker, I found it endearing to watch a child leading their father back to the front door at a delivery location. Could you please sign here? I offered the father a smile and handed over the document for him to sign. However, the sight of me turned him stark white, and he became completely still. My name is Holly. I'm 30 years old and work as a delivery driver for a shipping company. I was born into a fairly affluent family thanks to my father's prosperous business. But rather than follow in my family's footsteps, I chose to branch out and find work elsewhere. While out on deliveries, I happened to cross paths with Darren, a man a couple of years my senior, working at one of my regular stops. He courted me, and before long, we were wed. Today, we are parents to a beautiful son, and we lead a blissful life together. My parents never pushed me to step into the family business. But before our wedding, my father questioned Darren. "Are you considering taking over our family enterprise?" Darren's response was a firm, "Absolutely." As a result, Darren quit his job before we got married and shifted to my family's company to train and eventually take over. Darren had always been a soft-spoken, serene man, but I noticed a change in him after we married. He started belittling my job and vented out his anger towards my father, his current employer, on me. Believing in the good-hearted man he was before we tied the knot, I hoped he would regain his former self once things at work stabilized. Hence, I decided to give him some breathing room. My father had informed me that Darren was having a hard time improving his performance in his role as the external sales rep. I thought that might be adding to his stress. But instead of improving, his behavior only escalated for the worse. Chores that we should have been dividing between us were slowly piling up on me, with him excusing himself saying he was exhausted from work, and he gradually withdrew from helping raise our child. Feeling partly responsible for asking him to switch to my family's business, I found it hard to confront his worsening attitude. In the end, I found myself frantically juggling housekeeping, childcare, and my work duties. Eventually, my personal grooming as a woman took a back seat. Seeing this, he would mockingly comment on my looks, saying, "Hey, it seems like ever since you became a mom, you've stopped putting as much time into your appearance, like not bothering with your hair and skipping makeup. What's up with that?" He also began comparing me to a female colleague, saying, "At work, there's a woman your age who's raising 2 kids, and she puts on makeup and keeps her appearance neat every day. I wish you could take a leaf out of her book." Isn't that woman you're talking about Nicole in the administrative department? She lives with her husband's parents at their home, right? And both of her children are in elementary school. She wasn't working when her kids were little. The clerk, Nicole, that Darren mentioned, had left the company when her kids were born. But guess what? She's back now, thanks to her in-laws stepping in to help with taking care of the kids. But when I told this fact to Darren, he deflected the conversation saying, "My parents live far away, and if we were to live with your parents, I'd have to see my boss all the time, wouldn't I? Living together with your parents is impossible." On his days off, he would frequently leave the house saying, "I'm going to a business seminar." I was the only one managing all the household chores and taking care of our son. It was really exhausting. Between juggling work and childcare during the week, and then trying to tackle the mounting housework on my days off, I was just getting more and more drained, both physically and mentally. I could have reached out to my parents for some help, but I was worried that I might somehow put Darren in a difficult spot at his work, so I found it hard to ask for that extra support. But there's only so much a person can take. Amidst such days, I eventually collapsed from all the stress and overwork. It happened at my workplace, and when they couldn't reach Darren, who was my emergency contact, they reached out to my mother, who rushed over. Are you so swamped with work that you're actually passing out from exhaustion? Does Darren even realize you're working to the point of collapsing? I think he does, but he's also pulling long hours trying to secure his position in the company, so I can't really ask for his help. You could have told me. I worried that if Dad found about all of this, it could somehow impact Darren's position at the company. After taking some time to consider my words, my mom finally spoke up. From now on, talk to me before things get this bad. The following day, I got a message from my father. We need to have a talk. Come home without letting Darren know. When I returned home in response to his message, my father told me, frankly, Darren isn't improving in his role at all. At this rate, it's not just about being ready to take over. He can't even handle his current responsibilities. We can't trust him with the company if this continues. And he's been attending external seminars, learning things that don't align with our company's ways. Whatever the reason, he isn't following the advice given by our staff. If there's no improvement, we can't keep accommodating him. We could introduce him to other companies if he's not willing to make changes. It might be better for him to find a place that suits his style, he said, leaving me in deep thought. I decided to have a serious talk with Darren. That night, I brought up the topic with him. Did you know that I passed out yesterday? The doctor said it was due to overwork. I can't handle all the housework, childcare, and my job alone anymore. So I need you to help around the house and with raising our child. But I'm already stretched thin trying to secure my position in your parents' company. I'm already at my limit. The moment he heard my story, Darren retorted in an angry tone. The kind Darren I used to know seemed to have vanished completely. Dad told me that your performance isn't improving and you keep butting heads with the company's methods instead of following them. He said there's no way you can be his successor at this rate. Maybe you should focus more on understanding our company before attending all those business seminars. If you can't do that, he suggested you might be better off leaving the company, and we'll do our best to help you find a job that fits you. So, what's your plan? I was hesitant to mention all this, but given his refusal to listen, I finally brought up the company issue. As soon as I mentioned the company, Darren seemed lost for words. Then he glared at me. Are you trying to control me by bringing up my work? Is this some kind of threat? That's not what I meant. So all my efforts so far have been for nothing, haven't they? I would have been much better off staying at my previous company. But in reality, you're not improving at all, despite receiving a high salary, right? I thought he would explode at my words, but surprisingly, he became quiet. I've been trying to figure things out, but it's not going well. Starting tomorrow, I'll change my approach, pay more attention to your dad's advice, and strive to improve. I'm sorry. Even though his sudden change in attitude felt strange, all I could reply was, whether that's true or not is for my father to decide. I hope you can earn his approval. After that, Darren started to chip in a bit with the housework, and I began to leave our son with my mother, which greatly eased my burden. But one day, when I visited my parents' house to leave my son, I happened to run into Ellen, who works at my father's company. It seems she had come to pick up some documents my father had forgotten. I encountered her just a few feet away from my parents' house. Seeing me, she made a slightly awkward expression. We made a small talk for a while, but then she said, I'm sorry, but I thought you should know. This might not be my place, but there's something I need to tell you. Actually, I moved recently and saw Darren coming out of a woman's house in the neighborhood. When I mentioned it to my husband, he said that Darren might be her boyfriend as he often visits during the day. I was speechless at this revelation from the company employee. Continuing on, she said, "But that woman has a child. My husband said that the child calls Darren Daddy. But it doesn't seem like they're living together, so my husband thought it was a complicated family situation." I was stunned by what I heard. I somehow managed to drop off my son with my mother and get through my workday, but honestly, I couldn't focus on anything and ended up leaving early. I decided to talk to my mother about it. After hearing my story, my mother was furious, but she said, "It could be a misunderstanding. You should hire a private investigator to look into it thoroughly. I can provide the money if necessary. Let's not involve your father in this." Using my own savings, I hired a private investigator. The results came back quickly. Darren was in a relationship with a barmaid named Vicky, and they even had a 5-year-old daughter together. The investigation also revealed why his sales performance wasn't improving. Apparently, under the guise of outside sales, he was visiting Vicky's house and spending time with his other family. Swallowing back tears, I decided to take action. Armed with the evidence from the investigator, I hired a lawyer who specialized in divorce cases and started making arrangements for a divorce. With the documents prepared by the lawyer, I decided to deliver Darren's belongings when he was visiting Vicky's house. When I rang the doorbell at her house, a little girl who was probably their daughter came out. My heart sank seeing this innocent child, but I calmly said, "I have a delivery. I need a signature. Could you please call your mom or dad?" At this, the girl shouted, "Hey Dad, we've got a package here. They're asking for your signature," and went back inside, dragging Darren out by the hand. Seeing me at the entrance, he went pale, stammering, "Why?" "Just need a signature right here," I said, flashing my most charming grin before handing over the divorce papers and his belongings. It's a misunderstanding." He tried to argue, but just then, Vicky, suspicious about his delay, poked her head out from the living room. "Oh, and this must be Vicky?" I asked Darren. "Who's this lady? Do you know her?" She made a puzzled face and asked, "Nice to meet you. I'm Holly, Darren's wife." "Excuse the uniform, I'm on the clock. I'll be claiming damages from you too, so please go through these documents," I said and handed her the documents for claiming damages. To the still petrified Darren, I said, "It's time we finalize this divorce. You need to acknowledge your daughter too. Oh, and Nicole. I'll also be claiming damages from her." I had found out from the investigator that he was also fooling around with Nicole, his company's clerk. "Nicole's married too, huh? Her husband should hear about this, and my dad will definitely hear all about it." At this point, Darren looked like he was about to faint. The one who stopped him was Vicky. "What's going on? I know you had a wife, but you have another mistress?" She shouted and began to confront Darren. The sudden argument, or maybe just the tension, set Vicky's daughter off crying. I decided to leave them to it and headed home. I filled my parents in on the situation and moved me and my son's things to their place. Later, I met with my lawyer, filed for divorce from Darren, and sought alimony, child support, and damages from both Vicky and Nicole. Nicole's husband reached out to me. We agreed to share the cost of the investigation, and I handed over the evidence to him. Apparently, Darren had been spending his weekdays at Vicky's and claiming he was at business seminars on the weekends while actually spending time with Nicole. Turns out, he didn't follow the company's guidance simply because he was easily swayed by a young internet entrepreneur. And surprisingly, in the midst of this chaos, it was revealed that Vicky was also involved with another married man, which just made things even more complicated. But I chose to focus only on getting what was due to me. In the end, I was granted the alimony and child support I sought, and the divorce was finalized without any hassle. Darren seemed to have started a new life with Vicky and their daughter. My dad was ready to sack Darren, but I convinced him otherwise. Eventually, due to their misconduct at work, Darren and Nicole received pay cuts and demotions. I wanted him to stick around because I figured the others at work who knew about his affair and subsequent divorce wouldn't exactly be friendly towards him. I thought it would be better for him to suffer in a hostile workplace. I was right, and Darren, now just a regular employee with a significantly reduced income, couldn't stand the hostile environment and quit a few months later. According to Ellen, who lives near Vicky, the sound of Darren and Vicky's daily arguments can be heard all over the neighborhood. Although Darren and Vicky were living together, it was clear that their relationship was extremely sour. Then I got a message from Darren pleading for a reconciliation. "I've realized how important you are to me, Holly. Ever since then, Vicky has been blaming me for being broke, and she's raising that I should pay the damages claimed by the other man's wife. You are all I have, Holly. Help me. Let's start over." What are you talking about? To begin with, if Vicky's daughter is 5 years old, that means she was born 2 years into our marriage. There's no way I can forgive a man who's been lying to me for over 5 years. We're never getting back together again, I said bluntly and hung up the phone. I blocked his number after that. In the end, Darren and Vicky's arguments only intensified, leading to a noise complaint from the neighbors and their daughter being taken in by Vicky's parents. Darren found another job, but it paid much less, and with damage claims coming from all directions, he couldn't afford the rent and had to move. I don't know whether they broke up or are still together after that. I apologized to my parents saying, "I'm so sorry for bringing such a person into the family and causing trouble for the company." But my father said, "Honestly, I was already done with him before you even talked to me. I only tolerated him because he was your husband. I think my leniency might have ultimately hurt you. I should be the one apologizing." I thanked Ellen, who initially tipped me off about Darren's visits to Vicky's. "I was worried that I might negatively impact your marriage, so I didn't say anything. But I'm glad things have worked out in a way you can accept." After that, I started working full-time instead of part-time, and I'm living a new life with my son. Of course, the alimony and child support payments, which were supposed to be made in installments, were already behind schedule. So after discussing with my lawyer, we're considering taking Darren and Nicole to court. The whole ordeal was a tough battle, but thanks to my parents' unwavering support, things seem to be going smoothly. The damages I claimed from Vicky were paid for by her parents, so I guess we'll contact Darren and Nicole's parents to see if they can pay for them as well. While it doesn't seem like everything will be resolved soon, I hope to tie up the loose ends quickly for the sake of my son and me. I felt guilty for taking my son's father away from him, but my parents shower my son with love, and my mom comforted me by saying, "Do you think your son would want a father like Darren? In other words, it's better not to have such a father at all. You just need to love him twice as much. Thanks to her, I was able to let go of that guilt. For the sake of my supportive parents, and most importantly for my son, I want to give my best in my future life.
While embracing my crying son, I heard the sound of screeching brakes and something colliding. Immediately after, I heard my mother-in-law's voice. "Oh dear, I didn't see them." She probably didn't check on the person she hit. She said it with a half smile. Ignoring her, I continued to embrace my son and rushed towards the fallen person. "My husband is in trouble. Please call an ambulance." "Huh? What? Why are you there? Evan, who did I hit?" My mother-in-law turned pale as she quickly realized her mistake. My name is Emma, 25 years old. I lost my parents at a young age and grew up in a facility. It's a common story. At first, I was quiet and withdrawn, but by the time I left the facility, I had become an optimistic person after meeting someone that was like an older brother figure. After graduating from high school, I aimed to become a full-time employee while working part-time at a restaurant. And due to the labor shortage, and with my hard work recognized, I was able to become a full-time employee within a year. Despite long working hours, I enjoyed my job. Then, my husband Liam joined the company as a junior colleague. Liam has switched careers from another industry, so I was unsure how to interact with him as a senior colleague. He sensed that and listened attentively to me, expressing his gratitude.
"Emma, your explanations are thorough and easy to understand. Thank you for everything."
I was strongly attracted to Liam, who treated me with kindness and respect without displaying any negative attitude towards me despite being 10 years younger. When Liam proposed the relationship, despite concerns from those around us, I gave my consent, and we began dating.
"You're only 22 years old, and you may have many things you want to do, but I'm already 32, right? I do respect your opinion, but if you're okay with it, Emma, I want to spend more time with you."
I immediately accepted Liam's marriage proposal, as he even showed concern for me during the proposal. Above all, having lost my family at a young age, I had a strong longing for a family. I wanted to create a happy home together with him. That's what I had in mind. However, I grew up in an institution. As a result, I have faced various hardships because of it. Liam's parents divorced when he was young. Since then, it seems he has had no contact with his father. As a result, Liam's mother raised him single-handedly. I was very worried that Liam's mother, who had lived with him as a single mother, would object to his marriage to someone like me, who had grown up in an institution. "Oh my, you're such an adorable young lady. Your eyes are so round and your skin is beautiful." "I'm Emma. I've heard about you from Liam. He mentioned that you grew up in an institution." "Ah, yes." I instinctively tensed up. I thought it was going to be a failure after all. "Oh no, don't make that face. It's alright, it's alright. It's perfect." "Huh? It's perfect?" The way my mother-in-law said it bothered me a little.
"Oh, Mom, you've always wanted a cute daughter, right?"
Liam stepped in to support me. "That's right. I've always wanted a daughter." I somehow felt like I was being deceived. But more than that, I was happy that I was accepted without any problems and allowed to get married.
"From now on, we're a family of 3.
Saying that, Liam patted my shoulder from behind. "Yes, that's right. Emma, when are you moving here?" "Huh? Here?"
"Oh, we haven't talked about living together yet."
With a casual tone as if he had just forgotten to buy bread, Liam spoke. I couldn't help but feel a sense of discomfort, but in front of my newly approved mother-in-law, I couldn't get angry or firmly refuse. I remained silent, unable to say anything. "In this town, it's common for the eldest son's wife to live together with a family."
"I'm sorry for not explaining, but Emma, you're okay with it, right? You've lived with other people in the facility. And despite the constant coming and going, everyone got along well. You even took care of everyone, right?
Well, but,
Huh? Don't you like it? Don't you want to get married? You want to become part of my family, don't you?
Faced with Liam speaking in a slightly intimidating tone, I couldn't refuse. And so we began our cohabitation after getting married. At first, things were going well, and I collaborated with my mother-in-law and Liam in doing household chores, managing to balance family and work successfully. However, after 6 months, both my mother-in-law's and Liam's attitudes started to change.
Haven't you had a baby yet? You're so young, it's a shame you can't conceive.
What do you mean?
Mom, stop it. I'm eating right now. You can talk about that stuff when I'm not around.
Liam uttered in a deeply annoyed tone. Liam said it not to defend me, but because he doesn't want complaints about his wife in front of him, as it would ruin his appetite.
You too. Honestly, even though you look decent, your housework and salary are just average, and now you can't even have children. What's the point of getting a wife? And did you choose properly?
No parents, a lonely young woman. Her housekeeping is decent and she hasn't been with any other men. She's clean and her appearance is decent. She meets all the conditions you mentioned, doesn't she?
I wish they would have such discussions, at least when I'm not around. Is it just because I'm young and selfish that I feel this way? Do other wives endure such things in the world? While thinking about these things, I could only pretend not to hear as I continued doing the dishes. Even though such conversations happen on a daily basis, I still want to create a happy family somehow. Maybe things will change if we have a child. I believe that if I worked harder on housework and improved my salary, things would get better. Since having a child is a precious gift, I made an effort to work overtime and earn more money than when I was single. I also felt the need to excel in housework, so I would finish cleaning and laundering before work, and when I returned home, I would prepare dinner for the 3 of us and continue with more housework. It's frustrating because my mother-in-law, who probably did the housework before I came, stopped doing it after we started living together and would only complain, leaving me to handle everything.
Since you used to take care of a large number of people, it shouldn't be a big deal to handle just 3, right?
I was made to do all the household chores by myself, even when I came home after working overtime. Liam now works at the head office instead of the field, and he often finishes work on time. However, he rarely helps with household chores. Without defending me against my mother-in-law, Liam would come home and lock himself in his room. Apart from meals, he would put on headphones and play online games, so there was hardly any conversation between us as a married couple. However, my mother-in-law continued to control everything, and on the days when she gave instructions, he would reluctantly come out of his room and spend time in my bedroom. And finally, the day came when I could no longer bear being under complete control.
You did it! It's a baby! A baby!
My condition worsened, so I went to the hospital for a checkup and discovered that I was pregnant. It had been a year since our marriage, and it was a long-awaited moment. During my pregnancy, my mother-in-law's attitude improved so much that she seemed like a completely different person and became kinder. However, I wanted to continue working, but due to my mother-in-law's actions, I was forced to quit my job.
She's supposed to be on her break right now, isn't she? She's not answering the phone.
She started calling the store to reach me. Ma'am, sometimes breaks can be rescheduled when she's busy.
But she's pregnant, you know. What do you think about that? What if something happens to the baby? My grandchild. What will you do? You're not making her carry heavy objects, are you?
During my work, I receive calls like this multiple times a day. The store manager expressed concern for me, but mentioned that it was causing disruption to the tasks of other employees. I apologize for causing any inconvenience. I hate to put it this way, but as far as your mother-in-law goes, are things going well with Liam? The store manager, being a woman, was one of the people who expressed concern when I announced my marriage to Liam. However, despite her genuine worries and advice, I chose to ignore them and got married anyway. I couldn't say such things as our married life isn't going well while being pregnant. After that, my mother-in-law took the lead in household chores, ensuring healthy meals, moderate exercise, and proper sleep. I followed my mother-in-law's instructions and lived a restricted life, managing my weight according to the ideal for a pregnant woman, all the while thinking about the well-being of the baby. And I safely gave birth to a healthy baby boy.
He's such a cute little boy. Both Liam and I have curly hair, but this child takes after you, Emma, with smooth and beautiful hair.
During the pregnancy, my mother-in-law insisted that her grandchild should have smooth and straight hair because she was self-conscious about her own curly hair. While I believed that our child would be adorable either way, I felt relieved that my mother-in-law had expressed such a preference. I was anxious about her reaction.
Oh, how about the name Marlon? It sounds nice, doesn't it?
Huh? I actually had another name in mind.
What? It's my grandchild, you know. Plus, it's the name of my favorite actor. It's a handsome name, isn't it?
And naming a child based on such reasons? I glanced at Liam, who was playing games on his phone with little interest in our newborn son, in the corner of the hospital room. Liam noticed my gaze, but quickly averted his eyes.
Since Mom will take care of him, why not choose a name that Mom likes?
I couldn't believe my ears. Mom will raise him. I will raise him myself. He's my child.
I know, right? It's a cool name, isn't it? What is this person talking about?
As my mother-in-law was soothing our son, she referred to me as this person.
But
indeed, he is my son, whom I gave birth to and suffered for. I wanted to have the authority to decide his name. Even though my job has been taken away and our family is far from ideal at the moment, I thought this was something I couldn't compromise on.
But it's not like that. I'm supporting you and Liam is working for us. You were able to have this child and have a life, right? Your own husband is telling you to obey your mother-in-law, so keep quiet.
In the face of my resistance, my mother-in-law spoke strongly.
That's right. Don't cause trouble. If you want to be with our son, just follow along.
In the private room, with only the three of us, being criticized by two people, and faced with the threat that I had to obey if I wanted to stay together, I couldn't resist any further. And after being discharged from the hospital, just as Liam had said, the household chores became my responsibility, while my mother-in-law took charge of childcare, creating a completely reversed dynamic. However, my mother-in-law's childcare principles were based on outdated ideas, and she seemed to have a preference against feeding the baby with formula milk. So when my son was hungry, she resentfully let me hold him.
They say it's better to breastfeed for at least 6 months. Until then, I guess you're necessary, so there's no helping it.
She continues to say such things. I was anxious about what would happen after 6 months. Would I be kicked out, perhaps? It was impossible for me to leave without a job. Moreover, even if they were to drive me out, I would never let go of my son. But would they really separate a mother from her child like that? I was full of anxiety, and simply getting through each day was a struggle. My son, born in the summer, was growing healthy and thriving, oblivious to my anxious feelings, and had started crawling. Susie, how about taking him out and letting him interact with other children soon?
Huh? You don't have to think about that. Well, I guess it's not a bad idea.
Then, how about the day after tomorrow? There seems to be an event at a nearby park.
Well, fine then. I don't want people to think I'm weird. You're coming with me the day after tomorrow.
It's good that I come along too? I didn't think I would be able to go together. I still worried about my son, who was mostly interacting with my mother-in-law, so I thought it would be good to provide him with some stimulation.
Don't get the wrong idea. I'm the one who will mainly do the talking, okay? After all, you haven't been involved in childcare, have you?
I I thought it might be my mother-in-law's fault for not letting me, but I didn't want to say anything that would upset her and prevent me from going out with my son, so I kept quiet. And then, on the day of the event, I was able to spend a delightful time with my son. The event staff, perhaps unaware of the situation, or perhaps because I introduced her as my mother-in-law, seemed to understand something. And even if my mother-in-law tried to do something with my son, "Since it's your first time, let's do it together with Mom." They guided us in this way. As a result, I was able to spend an unexpectedly long time with my son. I thought I would be criticized on the way back home, but my mother-in-law remained eerily silent and seemed to be deep in thought.
Please bring Marlon inside. You're not a good driver, so I'll do it.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, but I want you to look behind, so come out at least once.
I wonder if my son is tired from playing so much. I carefully lifted my soundly sleeping son out of the child seat, holding him to not wake him up, and gently laid him in the baby bed. At that moment, I heard a sound of collision and brakes, followed by my mother-in-law's voice.
Oh dear, I didn't see.
What I saw from the entrance was my mother-in-law, who made no attempt to rush to help the person who had collapsed. Instead, she loudly and artificially made excuses, seemingly for the benefit of the neighbors. The fallen person was my husband.
My husband is in trouble. Please call an ambulance quickly. Huh? Why are you there? Then who did I hit?
My mother-in-law's face turned pale in an instant. Yes, she had mistaken my husband for me and pretended to park the car by reversing straight into him.
Quick, call an ambulance. You ran over Liam. No, that can't be. I mean, I checked the jacket. I made sure I had the right jacket.
I was in shock, and although I held some resentment, I couldn't bring myself to believe that my mother-in-law was unable to make a phone call. After all, she was someone I had once loved. I rushed to the phone and called an ambulance, and at the same time, I called the police. Liam managed to survive, but the impact to his lower back was severe. This meant that walking freely would be challenging for him from now on, and he would rely on a wheelchair for mobility. Additionally, his shoulders seemed to have taken a significant hit, affecting the functionality of his dominant hand, and his right wrist appeared to have limited movement as well.
Let's get a divorce. I never expected my mother to go this far. I'm sorry for dragging you into all the mess between my mother and me. I truly apologize.
When Liam woke up, he inquired about his own condition and what had happened to his mother from the doctors and the police. It was as if a weight had been lifted off his shoulders, and he sincerely apologized to me. Instead of just apologizing, I wish you had focused more on me and our son and protected us. I wanted you to make an effort to become a family.
I'm sorry for taking away the best time of your life. I don't know what I can do in this condition, but I want to do everything I can.
Remember those words. After confirming that Liam's condition has stabilized and obtaining temporary discharge permission, I headed to the prison where my mother-in-law was. It would have been enough to simply divorce Liam, but that alone didn't satisfy me. It's been a while, mother-in-law. I thought there might be words of apology, but that hope vanished in an instant.
It's because of you that I ended up in this place. What about my grandchild? How is Marlon doing? If I leave him in the hands of a useless person like you, Marlon will be ruined.
I was astonished by her rotten mindset. However, now, despite her assertiveness, my mother-in-law, who was dressed plainly and without makeup, appeared small. When I came here, I thought maybe there was no need for further blame, but I felt no need to hold back in response to my mother-in-law's attitude. I felt relieved and ready to confront her with the appropriate consequences. No matter how much you try to act tough or belittle me, you're a criminal locked behind bars, and you can't do anything more. I, on the other hand, am free to do whatever I want.
What kind of disrespectful talk is that coming from a foolish daughter-in-law like you?
I'm not your daughter-in-law anymore. I'm a complete stranger.
What?
we got divorced. I couldn't bear the attacks from my mother wanting a grandchild, so as a result I forcibly found a woman who met my mother's conditions and made her have a child. Never expected it would come to the point of causing harm. I can't keep up with you anymore either, mother or not.
Can't keep up, huh? What about Marlon then? We don't need a daughter-in-law like you anyway. The important thing is our grandchild, and I do care about you, Liam, even if it was a mistake.
Yes, that's right. You mistook Liam because he was wearing the sweater that you gave me. On that day, as it had been a long time since I went out, I didn't have any appropriate clothes to wear. After giving birth, I didn't have much time to rest and was constantly active, so I lost weight. My mother-in-law was unusually kind to me.
Don't you have anything suitable to wear? It's cold today. I'm not wearing this right now, so I'll lend it to you.
And she lent me a branded eye-catching orange sweater. Then, at that moment when I was trying to lay Marlon down on the bed, he suddenly woke up and started crying. I was having trouble separating from my son, so I happened to ask Liam, who was about to go out, saying he was going shopping nearby, to help me guide the car. And since Liam was slightly dressed, I thought he might feel cold while guiding the car. He seemed fine with it, despite being a man, so I lent him the sweater.
That's right. I marked it so that I wouldn't hit anyone other than you. But you had to meddle unnecessarily. It's because of you that I'm here.
This is a prison. You're currently awaiting trial and the police are listening in from behind. So it was planned, right?
Because you gave birth to a grandchild but became useless and keep lingering around. Maybe if you get hospitalized, there will be a period when you're not here, right? Just kicking you out might result in you taking Marlon away, you know?
Is that so? So you deliberately stepped on the accelerator thinking it was me. We are getting divorced, so you are a stranger to me. Marlon is also a stranger to you, and you have no visitation rights. Do you even realize where you are? That's exactly what would negatively impact Marlon. I imagine my mother-in-law had a look of frustration, and she began pleading with Liam while crying.
Liam, you'll help me, right? Just get me out of here for now.
Didn't I already say I can't handle this anymore? I have no intention of helping you. And I don't plan on letting you see our son, or even showing you his picture ever again.
No! No!
Susie pounded on the partition window of the visitation room and screamed, but we ignored her and left the room. Meanwhile, behind us, the correctional officer's angry shouts echoed, and we could hear someone being taken away, screaming. Liam's face twisted slightly, but I felt a sense of relief. I would no longer be troubled by my mother-in-law. Liam promised to pay both alimony and child support. It seems that his dominant hand can move, but his favorite game requires the use of both hands, so everything he invested in it, including in-app purchases, seems to have been in vain. He says he can never do it again. He pleaded with the company to somehow let him stay, explaining that even in a wheelchair with only one hand, he would still be able to do computer work. The company, understanding his situation, agreed to keep employing him, albeit with a reduced salary. Now I decided to return to work. It seems that this story was conveyed to the female manager through someone related to Liam. Because it also concerns your son, I would like you to contact me, even if it's after you've calmed down. I've been concerned about it all this time, but I couldn't do anything. And this time, I really want you to rely on me. She says so, and promised to rehire me. And now the families in the facility who were like older brothers to me have kindly allowed me to stay until things settle down, and I am preparing for a fresh start. This time, I'm determined to express my aspirations, protect what's important to me, and live a fulfilling life while maintaining open and effective communication with others. I'll cherish those invaluable elements every step of the way.